Hello, welcome to Into Dorkness episode XXVI 26.
26.
Last week was our grand 25th silver anniversary. We had Brent Spiner on. We had William Shatner on. For some reason, Bill Clinton showed up.
It was a good episode.
I love that Star Trek, man. I wish I could. I was a kid pretending to be Captain Kirk banging green chicks, although that never actually happened in the show.
Common misconception.
And I was like,
right?
Mr. President Clinton. He's like, call me Bill, call me Willie. And we're like, well, that's something that we brought up in the show.
Yep.
Which proved that he had never listened, which kind of hurt my feelings. But,
yeah.
I mean, he showed up, which was enough, which is more than a lot of people.
That's true. It's more than George H.W. and George W. Bush did. They both turned down our invitation.
we sent them invites. They're like, they had better stuff to do.
It's not a Democrats only podcast.
No, absolutely not. This is
Trek.
This is Trek. Our only philosophy is Trek.
The prime directive.
The prime directive. That's all. That's it. You know what? Leave your bleeding hearts and your neocons at home. We're here to talk some Trek.
That's right.
And other stuff.
Yeah, like poop in the bed. And
like poops in the beds. Not the Wolverine, because I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. You want to go this week?
I'm so busy. I'm so damn busy.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
I'm damnable busy. Does that make sense? I'm so busy. I'm damnable.
I don't know if it makes sense, but I understood.
You like it?
Yeah, I smiled.
Appreciate it. You can't. You listening can't see this, but he smiled.
Yeah.
You smiled that loving smile.
A smile's a hard thing to get out of me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoic.
You're stoic son of a bitch. Is there anything else that's been going on? Well, let's announce this.
Okay.
In 2 weeks,
Show 28,
we will be discussing At the Mountains of Madness.
Right.
The much beloved H.P.
Lovecraft novella.
I read it way back when I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
So you actually have read it?
You
turned the pages.
I turned the pages and the words processed in my brain, but I didn't really make sense of it.
Right.
I mean, I just because at that point I was like, H.P. Lovecraft, that should be my jam. And the idea of H.P. Lovecraft definitely is. Absolutely is. On the way, before we recorded, Sean made two references to the old gods. So obviously that's his jam too.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the old gods.
What's up with them? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. What are they up to?
And that whole Pacific Rim thing.
Yeah, well, Del Toro wanted to do At the Mountains of Madness, and when that fell through, I think is when Pacific Rim happened.
That's when I read it.
Oh, okay.
That's when I read it. When he was going to do it, I was like, I need to read that, and then he didn't do it. And I'm like, that's all right with me.
I don't. Yeah. So book club Into Dorkness coming in 2 weeks. Please join in.
You can read it online for free.
Yeah. Do you want to give them the website?
It is http: are those forward slashes or backslashes?
I'd say they're forward slashes.
They're forward slashes. I always thought they were backslashes, but they lean forward. http: // Dagonbytes DAGONBYTES.com /the library /Lovecraft /Mountains of Madness with 2 D's MADD.
Mad Mothers Against Drunk
Driving. You know what? Just
Google.
Just go to the At the Mountains of Madness Wikipedia, and there's a link at the bottom to the full text.
Right.
And
we're going to discuss it in 2 weeks. I've always wanted to read this, but I always get bamboozled by like chapter 2, and I'm like,
Lovecraft was a bit of a racist.
Stephen King once described him as a galloping racist.
A galloping racist.
He said that if H.P. Lovecraft were alive today, he'd be one of those people spewing hate bile in internet chat rooms.
Yeah.
But
here's the thing. How much of that is being a product of your time and how much of it is actual racism?
I think in his case, definitely a product of his time, but from what little I remember reading about him, he also was sort of a timid personality, at least in public, and so was sort of afraid of the other. And
kind of like you.
Kind of like me, but I'm not a galloping racist.
No.
I don't write stories about how
you're a sauntering racist.
I don't write stories about how the blacks and apes are basically the same thing.
How, like, the blacks have taken over, like, a borough of New York and how it's dangerous to go in there.
Right. No, I don't... my work does not feature any of those hallmarks of Lovecraft.
You know, this has been a topic of discussion between us for it began a couple months ago when the Khaleesi of Into Dorkness declared sincerity is coming back in a big way.
Right. And we all know she's got her finger on the pulse.
And I think I argued with her about it on the show, and I was like, that's not true. And I've been thinking about it more. I don't know if it's true or not. I hope it is. I want it to. Because we talked about this last week about how irony that it only counts. It only matters if it's the exception to the rule.
Right. Well, film critic Hulk, an internet writer we both enjoy, he was talking about Bret Easton Ellis, the author of American Psycho, I think Less Than Zero, Rules of Attraction.
Yeah.
And how he's great, but he's only great if the world isn't all like Bret Easton Ellis.
Yeah.
Like, you need a world that's essentially looked on as benevolent and writers who essentially feel like the world is a good place, and then you have a satirist who sort of shakes things up. If everybody's shaking things up, then it's sort of...
Everything's
sort of
chaos.
crumbles,
yeah, everything's chaos. Like you need stability to shake up. If everything's being shaken up, then where's that stability?
I don't know that it's necessarily coming back at the moment, but I would like it to. And I think that there are certain writers and certain artists who try to hang on to that, and that's then that was the big bummer.
John Irving.
John Irving has lost his damn mind.
Has he?
His last two books are, he's just going through the motions. He's checking off the boxes like confused sexual identity, younger men, older women, bears, wrestling, missing fathers.
All things I love and have.
Exactly. All things I own.
All things that are a part that make me me. I am John Irving.
He's still my favorite, but artists who that's what made Man of Steel such a disappointment, because the trailers made it look like this very sincere, optimistic thing, and it felt like, especially in a world post Dark Knight, which is very embraced the gritty and the ugly and all of that, to have this flip side thing and then have it not actually be the flip side, but sort of.
Well, Dark Knight, like, it embraced that, and then
it was looking for hope.
Yeah, exactly. That was the overarching theme of that entire trilogy.
Right.
Like trying to climb out of the darkness to the light.
Yeah, I mean, and it pays off quite literally in the third film.
Literally.
Did you hear he's leaving Parks and Rec?
Rob Lowe?
Rob Lowe and Rashida Jones are both leaving.
Rashida Jones?
And at Sweeps. So they'll be there for the first half of this coming season, and then they're both leaving.
When's Sweeps?
February.
I thought that was May.
I think they have February and May sweeps.
That doesn't make a lick of sense.
I could be wrong about that, but they said February sweeps in the article I read.
Okay,
so
that's most. Well, they're hooking up,
right? So I guess they can ride off into the sunset. I was talking to Becca about this.
I was about to reference Jar Jar Binks. I was gonna say that smells stinkawith. What's wrong with me? It's in my brain. It's never going to leave my brain.
Using brain bomb bad.
Apparently.
But Parks and Rec, for a show that's been on as long as it has one of the most, mutable, that is to say, changeable casts. Its cast has changed significantly since it started. Mark Brendanowitz left, Adam Scott and Rob Lowe were added after he left. Just sort of the additions and subtractions, more so than, say, The Office. He was there for the first two. He left at the end of the second season, but the first season's only 6 episodes.
Oh, well, that doesn't count.
Okay.
I mean, well, it's so short that I assume
it's a wafer. It's a wafer of a season.
It's a wafer of a season.
It's a British sitcom of a season.
Come on, and who likes those?
I don't know.
People like them. I like them. I enjoy them.
Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
The Upside of Being Down. I don't know. That sounds like the name. Who knows? The Measure of a Man, quite possibly, according to Patrick Stewart, the first great Next Generation episode. I find it hard to disagree.
It's head and shoulders above everything we've watched so far, and I've seen some stuff I really like.
So good.
This is a genuinely great episode of Star Trek.
Some fool, Bruce Maddox, shows up, and he's like, yo, my homie was Dr. Noonan Soong. You know,
can't even say his name.
I can't even say his name, but he's my homie. He's a protege of Soong, the guy who created Data,
right.
Data's and Lore, Data and Lore's father. And he's trying to continue his work. He's realized that the only way that he'll be able to is to disassemble Data.
Right, to get a look at his clockwork.
And basically reverse engineer it. Because he can't figure it out.
He's hit a stumbling block.
And so he needs to cut him open and tinker with his ticker.
Yep.
Data's like, and Picard...
Right.
Are like, no.
Well, and the big thing about disassembling him also is that they intend to wipe his memory and put it in a storage bank. And then put it back when they're done.
Yeah.
Which could essentially, as Data puts it, wipe out the flavor of the memories.
Yeah, well,
so he would still have the data, but he wouldn't.
I mean,
it wouldn't be his anymore.
It'd be like you remember everything. Like it's like I would remember everything about the birth of my daughter, but I wouldn't remember how it felt. I wouldn't remember.
Right, it would be like reading a wiki article about the birth of your daughter. And
which I should write that. And if it gets deleted, I will raise hell.
Remember when we did one for Walter's beard? Were you there for that?
I was there for that.
And we fought hard to keep it on.
We fought with a mod. He's like deleted.
He marked it immediately. It was up less than half an hour, I think.
And it's a great beard though. But if we were to do one today, it would definitely be for our friend Rhodey. Rhodey's beard is immaculate.
He really does have the best beard.
We'll post a picture of the beard on our Facebook, facebook.com/IntoDorkness.
Just nose down.
Yeah, just the beard to preserve his
anonymity. Right, Rhodey's a very private person.
He plays it close to the chest. So Maddox is like, I'm going to take your grape nuts, put them in this computer, figure out how you work, and I'll put them back. And like you said, Data says he would lose the flavor of the memories.
Right. He doesn't think that the research is far enough along that the risk is worth it.
This Jag off. How long? That show was on for a long time. Jag?
It's just one of those shows that grandmas and grandpas loved and was on forever. I think wasn't the co-star of that Catherine Bell? She's one of the not most famous Scientologists because you got Tom Cruise and Will Smith, but
she's John Travolta.
She's a pretty active Scientologist, I think.
Catherine Bell was wowee.
Yeah, she's very lovely.
Yum.
That's why I remember her.
Yeah, dude, she was on that show. Is she a Scientologist? That's unfortunate.
I think so. I think she was at the opening of some museum, anti-psychiatry museum, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Nazi science.
Exactly.
From what I can ascertain, from what I've been told, it is a Nazi science.
Let's see. Let's find out.
Yeah, personal life, Scientology.
Womp womp.
There was a Scientology music video called United.
We should find it and post a link to
Isaac Hayes, Erica Christensen, swim fan, Jenna Elfman.
I always get her mixed up with Julia Stiles.
They look very much alike. Erica Christensen was
Traffic?
Was the little white girl banging the black dude in Traffic. Julia Stiles was the little white girl banging a black dude in O.
Who was doing it in Save the Last Dance?
Julia Stiles as well.
Okay.
She won out that. The director was like, which one will I choose?
Right, which curly-haired blonde girl with puffy lips.
He had them standing there. It was like the Chippendale skit with Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley. And he went with Julia Stiles. And obviously made the right choice. Her career has blossomed. Erica Christensen, meanwhile, is starring in Scientology music videos. So
Julia Stiles, last thing I saw her in was Silver Linings Playbook. She played a very minor role.
Was she good in it?
She was fine.
She was in a season of Dexter a few years back. She was good in it. Good in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, she did it's a small part. She didn't get much to do. So.
Julia Stiles.
She was there to bring Jennifer Lawrence into the film, essentially.
I've never seen that movie. I have no idea what it's about. Like, there are crazy people? Someone's on pills?
Yeah, it's sort of about how it doesn't matter how mentally ill you are, as long as you find somebody attractive who loves you, then you're good, I guess. I saw it, and as someone who comes from a family of mentally ill people, I found it a sconch. No, I'm not going to say offensive, because I didn't walk out like, huh. Oh. But I think unrealistic.
But do you ever walk out of movies like that?
No.
I'm
twisting my mustache and like...
like, that's something that I've definitely gotten over. Even if I was ever afflicted by that, is being offended by something. Like, leaving a movie, I can't believe that. Oh. I'm just like, okay, I've come to the realization that people have different opinions than me, right, and are more than welcome to portray them on film or in music or in art.
I guess not so much offended, but I do come out of films feeling a little worried occasionally. I remember when Mel Gibson, when The Passion was coming out, right?
Sold more full-screen copies of that DVD than anything else.
When you were working...
Take of that what you will.
When you were working at Sam Goody?
I was working at Sam Goody, and people were able to reserve movies. First of all, it was a big reservation title.
Push. Big push.
And we sold, and we were able to, this is before not the advent, but the flourishing of widescreen TVs.
Right.
And so DVDs came in widescreen and full screen, and we sold more full screen copies of that movie than pretty much anything else. Take of that what you will.
Well, I remember hearing about it whenever it was first starting, about how he wanted to film the whole thing in Aramaic.
I thought that was dope.
And he couldn't get studio funding because it was like too controversial, so he went out and made it on his own. And I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, like, this looks revolutionary. It looks like it's going to be a really interesting take. And then I saw the movie and I realized that except for the fact that it's filmed entirely in a foreign language, it's pretty much a straight up adaptation of the text. And so not only is it not saying anything particularly interesting artistically, except, that the Jews killed Jesus, and really bringing that home. And but the audience I saw it with, like, I was pretty disappointed with it. Also, I just felt like it didn't work by itself as a film. Like, maybe it works if, like, like the season finale of a TV show where it's like you already know the characters and everything, but if you dip in just for the finale, you're like, I don't get this. I wouldn't get any.
Why are they whipping him?
Yeah, exactly.
So many times.
There's no explanation. There's no dramatic effect. It's just torture porn, slow-mo torture porn. And but anyway, the audience fucking went nuts for it. Like, it was packed.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out feeling like I'd accidentally participated in something I didn't mean to. I thought I was going to see this, I didn't know much about Mel Gibson's background. If I had, I would have known a little bit more.
Like, oh, maybe that'll influence this movie, just a scunch.
Right. But, there's that, or the Transformers movies especially, because they are willfully, hatefully stupid. And there's some really weird genocidal undertones.
Yeah.
And racist overtones to the whole thing, and the fact
especially in the second one with the two little ones,
the two little ones who can't read.
Yeah.
Well, with the gold teeth and everything. So it's not so much offended because I'm like, well, whatever, but more so that other people aren't seeing it, and so it's sort of like I start freaking out, like I'm at some Nuremberg rally or something. As the hyenas are marching in goose step time, like in The Lion King.
Passion of the Christ. I thought the very, very end was dope.
When you see him with the holes in his hands.
I thought that didn't completely fulfill the promise, but that was the only of the trailer, of that we're gonna see something very honest and very kind of empowering, and
right.
I thought that that last 10-second period, when you see his face. Like, that music's playing, and he stands up. You see the holes in his hands, and he walks out. He's ready. He's
back.
He's ready to get shit done.
And evil doesn't stand a chance,
right? Yeah. but before that, I'm like, this is. And
the devil's a bald woman.
Yeah, I guess.
Sinead O'Connor burning pictures of the Pope.
Do you watch the History Channel, the Bible?
Nah.
Apparently the devil kind of looked like Barack Obama in that one.
I saw that. I saw the pictures and I was like, yeah, that looks a lot like our president.
Did we talk about Star Trek Into Darkness? How you said you were a little bit worried that they whitewashed such a great villain in Star Trek lore.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they did that? Did we talk about how they might have
done that so that the major minority character?
Yeah, like the brown guy isn't a terrorist.
I didn't. Maybe we talked about it. I don't remember, but I remember. I mean, that's it's a good point. I don't know. It's such a complicated thing because I feel like that with Star Trek, maybe not so much like Star Wars, which doesn't really have a whole lot of great diversity to it. The later one's a little bit more.
Lando.
Yeah, Lando, the one black guy in the universe, and his, I guess, grandfather, Mace Windu? I don't know.
Is that his grandpappy? They're definitely part of the same family tree.
Yeah, I mean, there's only like 2 African-American characters in
they have to be
all 6 movies. But, you know, where you've got basically an international cast, I don't think it's as big a deal. Especially since Star Trek, for all its unintentional racism, has a history of trying to be very even-handed and forward-looking with its attitudes towards race. So, I don't know.
I thought about that this past week. I was like, I couldn't remember if we had brought it up or not. So,
it's a good point.
Maddox wants to wants to pull him apart. This Jag, Philippa Louveau, an old flame of Picard. It's very Captain Kirk-esque.
Yeah,
it's like this woman.
It's very much like the court-martial or the trial episode.
Yeah,
where you know the lawyer for the opposition happens to be an old lover of the hero.
When she shows up at the beginning of the episode, and Picard's like, basically, I can't believe she's here. Rolls up and he's like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "Oh, you're not gonna give me a hug and a kiss?" And he's like, "Maybe a chair across the face,"
which is an interesting window into Picard's sex life.
Dude, it gets into some freaky deaky stuff.
Well, when you're that restrained all the time, you got to cut loose somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, you have to, or else it blows up at an inappropriate time.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
She is presiding over like the trial, I guess, the trial of Data's soul.
Right. Well, the guy claims. All right. So what's the name of the
Maddox?
Maddox claims that Data is Starfleet property.
Well,
right.
Well,
or we're not there yet.
First he's like, "Hey, you need to do this. You're a member of Starfleet. This is a direct command.
Right.
There's no way out of it." And Picard's like, "There's a way out of it. He can resign." And he ends up doing that. He's like, "I resign. Fuck you. I'm not doing that."
And there's this really sweet scene where he's packing up all of his stuff, and he turns on a little picture, a hologram of Tasha.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I got a little choked up watching it. Like, it was the first moment where the episode really hit me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. I mean, it's one thing is that everything he owns fits in this tiny little box, and second that he's taking such care of the few things that he has, and that I don't know, but I think that, you know, we'll get into it. I think I figured it out later in the episode, but I want to wait till we actually get there. But it's Maddox breaks in that scene, not breaks in, but he lets himself in.
Yeah, and Data's like, "Dude, it's customary to, you know,
knock. Even I know that.
Yeah, come on, I'm a robot and I know that." And so he resigns from Starfleet. That's when Maddox pulls that ace up his sleeve where he argues that Data is nothing more than like a computer that Starfleet owns. He's a piece of Starfleet property.
And it should be noted he's referring to Data as an it the entire time.
And the whole time, we don't see Pulaski this episode, but the whole time I'm sure she's like off camera going, "Yeah! Fuck that robot!"
No, well, I think maybe Geordi stops by, sick bay just to shoot the shit, and, he's like, "So, what about this Maddox guy?" And she's like, I ain't saying shit about this because I think my opinion here is pretty unpopular. Sort of like the one Republican in a Democrat, office or something. Like, nah, I'm not going to say anything.
So they decide to have this sort of trial of sorts,
right?
A hearing, I guess.
Picard demands it, and so what happens is that they have to get the 2 most senior officers available to
argue for and against.
Right, and the 2 most senior happen to be Picard and Riker. And
so Riker has to. He can refuse, but if he does, Louveau will judge against
Data.
So he has to
do his best.
To
prove that Data is a machine and nothing more.
Which sucks for Riker because that's his homie.
Right, that's his friend.
And he does a damn good job. Like Picard reacts by asking for a recess, and afterwards I would be like, I was like, yeah, if I were in that position, I almost wanted to pause it because I was like, damn, that's
yeah, he is. Well, there's a great scene without any words where Riker's starting to research Data, the case, and he gets this smile on his face because he's seen his end, and then he realizes what he's thinking of, and just sort of like looks really sad. Yeah. It's a nice bit of acting from Jonathan Frakes. I mean, it's a small moment, but I liked it. But yeah, he basically refers to Data as like Pinocchio.
Yeah, and turns the switch off.
That's
like
right.
He finds a switch
deactivates
that Data had told Crusher about, Dr. Crusher, in season 1, and turned it off. And Data just kind of slumps over, turned off, and he says Pinocchio's strings have been cut. And I was just like,
and Picard's like, recess!
He's like, oh shit! And then he goes to Tim Ford, hanging out with Whoopi.
I love that character.
She is the best. She was awesome in the next episode too.
Yeah.
But talks to Whoopi about it, and he's like, it was devastating. That's how he describes it, as devastating. He's like, I don't know if I could come back to it. And she brings up, like, so he takes Data, figures out how he was made, starts to make more, hundreds, thousands, all these disposable humanoids, that can do whatever you guys want.
Right.
Like, sounds a lot like something else to me. And Picard's like, you're talking about slavery, and she's like, whoa, I didn't say that. But
yes,
wink, wink.
And it's a powerful moment too. I mean,
she's so good in this.
She's so good, but also the fact that he's discussing it with an African American actress too. Like, really lends the scene some extra power. It's just another great touch in an episode with like a whole bunch of them. Like, it's just another moment that like hammers home.
Yeah, and so Picard figures out how to argue against it. He comes in. He starts to ask. He asks Maddox what.
Prove that I'm sentient.
Yeah, he's like, what's
how would you define
sentient life? And he's like, you have to be intelligent, self-aware, and have consciousness. And
he starts a Socratic dialogue.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
And so he's like, Data would you say he's intelligent? And Maddox is like, yes, he can learn and adapt, based on his situation, his surroundings.
Right.
And he's like, is he self-aware? And he says that he is, because he's like, where are you? He's like, I'm in a courtroom deciding whether or not I have a life, whether I can continue to live. And so he starts to he asks, like, how do you prove consciousness? Mm-hmm. And Maddox gets flustered.
He can't do it,
and keeps referring to Data as it, and he can't do it. And then he calls Data up, and he starts to talk to him, and he's asking him questions.
Like, why did you pack your medals?
Yeah, and he's like, well, what medals do you have? And I think it was Riker who said, like, let's get past this. He's like, no, like, let's hear every single one. Let's hear exactly what this
machine has done. For Starfleet.
Yeah, like how Starfleet has decided to honor this machine. Like, you don't pin a medal onto a computer.
No.
And he brings up Tasha, and he says,
"Why did you pack this?"
And he said he didn't want to talk about it.
Out of respect to her.
And Picard said, based on the
situation,
I don't think she'll mind. And that's when he fucking lowers the boom.
He's like, she was special to me because we were intimate, and that was where I sort of like. It just hits home because for all the things he's done, as many adventures as Data's been on, he has this very small life. Like, these experiences, these human experiences, which are very...
very precious to him.
Right, and just how hard, like, how much they mean to him. And, like, that was where I almost lost it. I was watching it in the break room at work. I was like, I can't cry in front of these people.
And, like, we were talking about it. We were texting about it. It was almost like humans take... life as just
granted.
It's like we had a memory that I have that I cherish, but I have tons of them. Data doesn't. Data's having to earn it, having to like actually work towards it.
Right. Well, and also there's something about the character that, and one of the reasons I think he's so lovable is he's essentially the equivalent of a child or the holy fool archetype, which you know, like Forrest Gump or something, where like it's almost like, you know, if you had to give away. I remember when I was like 13 or 14, we used to have this dog, but my mom said we couldn't keep it anymore, so we found a family to take it away to a farm. But this old couple came to take her, and I don't think that the kill shelters usually drive out to do that. Like, we actually met them and everything, and we put her, you know, in the car, and she was looking at me, and like she just doesn't understand what's going on, and like up until that moment I'd been fine, but once I understood, like, she doesn't understand, and I can't make her understand. Like I just lost it, and there's something of that about Data too. This sort of like, he really is innocent, you know, and the fact that this doctor wants to do this awful thing, which will essentially rob him of every real experience he's ever had.
Like I mean, his dream is that he wants to be more human. He wants to be human,
right?
And this essentially will put him back at step zero.
Yeah.
I mean, what little progress he's made. Like this, I mean, he doesn't have faith in Maddox's abilities to do what he says he can do.
Right.
He thinks technically it might work.
Right.
But like he said, the flavor will be gone. He won't actually have those memories anymore.
Yeah.
Like you said, it'll be like reading a Wikipedia entry.
Right.
So, but Laveau asks if Riker wants to cross-examine or, you know, wants to ask questions. He says no. I thought he was going to be like, yo, you found out what's up? Well, I bet she was a freak in the sheets. But
that's probably what he was thinking.
That's what I was thinking. But also, I mean, the fact that she told Data not to tell anyone.
And he kept that.
Well, it makes it think that that like it didn't mean too much to her. Like maybe she just wanted to get her rocks off.
Right.
But it meant the world to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And when she died, I think that, you know, that
also had an
effect.
And then that, you know, had Data's behavior in that episode is a whole new light. And I don't know if that was intentional or not.
But it's what exists in the text, and it's really nice.
Well, Laveau rules in Data's favor that he is not property of Starfleet and can refuse to undergo this procedure, which he formally does. He tells Maddox, you know, I no,
But keep on with your research.
And he's like, if I can help, let me know. You know,
when your research hits the right point, I'll still be here.
Yeah.
So.
Which again, like he's like, look, I don't like what you're trying to do, but I understand why you're trying to do it.
Right.
And Maddox then refers to Data as a he for the first time. He says
he's like extraordinary or remarkable or something. Yeah.
Then the episode ends with another great moment with Data and Riker talking.
That's right, because they're having a party and Riker's sitting by himself in one of the observation decks, right?
And he's like, Data's like, you know, what's going on? And he's like, dude, you're my friend. I almost had you. And Data reminds him, like, you know, had you not done that, she would have summarily ruled against me.
Right.
And he says, the action injured you and saved me. I won't forget it.
And Riker perks up, claps him on the back, and they walk away. And also, going back to the Tasha thing, that's a great example of how if a show gets better, it can refer back to earlier, lesser parts of its continuity and make them better in retrospect. Because that episode's kind of a throwaway. It's a direct ripoff of an original series episode, isn't it? The Naked Now is what it was from, right? Where he and Tasha slept together.
Did they sleep together naked now?
Is that the one where she's wearing the belly shirt and like?
Oh, I don't know if they banged then. Was it them?
Yeah, she asked him like it's like the 7th or 8th episode, and then at the end of it, she comes up and she's like, "Data, it never happened." And
oh, that's like, right. That's
right. Wah, wah. But like they turned it into something more, and that's a really good sign for what's to come in the rest of the show. I think
the Dauphin.
The Dolphin.
Echo the Dolphin. Remember that game?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I could never beat it.
I didn't have a Sega Genesis, when it was out, like when that game came out. Like I
It
bought
was hot stuff.
Like I bought a Genesis after the fact because I was like, oh, let's go to Funko Land and buy a second Genesis. Yeah. So they have to help this this teenage girl who is supposed to rule a planet.
She was the daughter of soldiers on opposing sides of a war. And
both leaders, like there's two factions, and both leaders, I guess, like up and died around the same time.
Right.
And so this is a chance for them to unite under one ruler, and it's this 15-year-old girl who's been exiled herself. Yeah,
living basically like Arthur, being raised away from it all.
And so she rolls up with her governess, and her name's Anya, the governess, and the girl's name is Celia. And she comes on board, and Wesley Crusher sees her, and
he is struck by Cupid's arrow.
right in the butt.
Right in the butt.
He gets boners for her, for sure.
Yeah.
And she seems to have boners for him.
Bones for him, yeah.
And like he's holding this magnet. He's helping Geordi in engineering.
That's right. While they have to stay on impulse power for a while because Geordi's asked for some time to make some adjustments to the ship, right?
Yes. And so
he sends Wesley on an errand, and Wesley happens to run into her with the magnet.
And she's like, oh hey, that's a conducting magnet, whatever. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, how do you know? She's like, I've been studying. Like that's all I do is study. And he's like, oh. He's like, oh, I do.
You like study too?
And Anya's like, Celia, get over here! Don't do that! Don't talk to that boy.
And she makes a great joke about be careful or that'll pull the skin right off your bones.
He's like, that'll pull the iron right out of your blood. And he's oh. And he tells Riker, he's like, who is that? And Riker's like, don't even think about it, buddy. Although I think he is kind of a dick about it. He's like, oh, I don't think she'll have time for you, Wesley. She's set to rule the entire world. I think he could have been a little nicer.
He gives him some pointers later, though. How helpful they actually are is of questionable. I can't finish that sentence.
Questionable intent means.
Not intent. I don't know. Questionable value.
There we go. So he's all boner jam for her. He's mucking it up in engineering.
And Geordi,
so patient and nice. He's like, what are you doing up there? And he's like, oh, there's this girl. She's just perfect.
He's like, yeah, I figured this would be happening now. He checks his iPhone calendar, and he's like, yep.
Yep, boner jams. And Wes is like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you got boner jams for this girl. Go talk to her, right?
You were going to do me absolutely no good here.
And so he goes, and he...
if only all of our teachers and mentors had been
understood and
just like, go be young.
It's like, oh, hey, remember that shit that I went through like 20 years ago?
Right.
That's what you're going through like right now. I get it. Oh, yeah, I remember that. It happens to everyone.
Right. So Wesley's very lucky that he's got a friend in Geordi.
And he's like, okay, I'll go. Cut to Worf screaming his head off. And he's like, that's how we attract a mate.
Right.
That's how Klingons attract a mate. And then he starts describing like the sexual like process between Klingons and like gets himself like all worked up.
He's like, you duck a lot.
Yeah, he's like, the female begins throwing things, and he starts to smile.
Sexy smile.
and Wes is like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work for me, dude. Like, I'm like 110 soaking wet. I'm a rail.
He's really polite about it though. He's like, that sounds great for Klingons.
Yeah, like, but I'm normal.
I'm a human, raised by humans.
Cut to 10 forward, where he's Picard, Riker, and Gunan, Whoopi's character. Yeah. I forgot how it's pronounced.
I can't remember.
Mary Beth, get us on that.
Yeah, send us a wave file. Please.
A wave file, or a phonetic spelling, whatever.
Yeah,
works.
Whatever.
And they're like, we're going to teach you how to flirt, and they start doing this back and forth. Where I'm like, ah!
It's like something out of a 1940s like romantic comedy.
It's very like back and forth, and very like. There's one part where he says, where Whoopi says, "Don't put me too much on a pedestal. You won't be able to reach me." And Riker says, "Then I'll learn how to fly." Like that sort of shit. It's awesome.
And then Wesley at one point's like, and Whoopi's like, "Shut up, kid."
Yeah, he's like, "I don't think this is gonna work for me either." And she says, "Shut up, kid. Tell me more about my eyes."
Which I think is the first full-blown comedic moment we've seen from that character. So far, I think she's been more,
shut up, kid.
More of like an oracle, a little more wise. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great moment.
I liked it just because, like, it's...
Well, first, it's a really fun scene.
It's fun, but also it's flirting for flirting's sake. Like, obviously, like, there's...
As an art.
Yeah, and she enjoys being flattered, and, like, that's it, you know? She's not, like, looking to bone down with Riker right then and there. She's just like, oh, hey, like, tell me, you know, say more nice things about me.
And he enjoys it, too.
He enjoys making a woman feel good. Who doesn't? What man doesn't? What real man doesn't?
Yeah.
Into Dorkness. What real man doesn't like making a woman feel good? That's our tagline.
That's our T-shirt.
That's our T-shirt.
And it's the poster for like Into Darkness, where you have Khan with his back and the Starfleet logo, but instead it's a vagina.
Exactly.
But you're still only like a few inches tall in comparison.
Yeah,
it's you.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah,
it's us.
Yeah,
it's holding hands
in front of a vagina.
Yeah.
Like,
about to take
what's going to happen in
here? About to
here?
take this journey, this trek together. It turns out that Anya can transform into... Well, first she's like...
Transforms into something out of a Clive Barker movie.
Well, she is... Like, there's this woman who was actually in Twin Peaks. I recognized her from Twin Peaks.
Was she Laura?
No.
Oh, she was the waitress, wasn't she?
Yes.
Who? Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember this foxy babe. And I'm like, where did she come from?
Yeah, I thought maybe I just hadn't been following it. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, and then she turned into like this little, like, I don't know, something out of like...
what was the name of that thing in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey? That
I never saw that.
Into two? Oh,
I never saw that.
You missed a treat.
Something out of like Jim Henson's workshop.
Yeah, but Dark Crystal Jim Henson, not like Muppet Show Jim Henson.
It's a little creepy, but, you know, still kind of kid-friendly.
Kind of cute.
And then back into Anya.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's a shapeshifter. That's what we got.
Speaking in squeaks and ticks and...
So Anya's worried that she's not going to be able to rule, but, you know... Or Celia, rather.
Right.
Is worried about that she won't be able to rule. She ends up having to... There's someone who's sick in sick bay, and Pulaski's like, oh, he's sick, but...
it's
like,
okay.
There's no risk of contagion, and Anya's like, I don't care, kill him. And Pulaski's like, pump the brakes, homegirl.
No?
Yeah, how about no? And Anya's like, you have to kill him, or else. And Pulaski's like...
Or else what?
No, that's yeah, or else what? And, like, pulls up her shirt, and she's packing heat in her waistband. But then Anya's like, or else this, and turns into, like, this crazy monster, fights Worf. They get into it. And then everyone figures out Anya's a crazy shapeshifter called an alias morph, alias morph.
Yeah. It's an alysomorph.
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 Whatever. And so Anya sneaks out, and she's like, Anya tells Celia to not talk to Wesley anymore.
Right.
Wesley has been trying to smooth her up with chocolate mousse,
right,
with fondue.
With replicator,
which
his mad replicator
which
skills.
I remember about 12 years ago, I was at work, and my boss, he's like, dude, if you want to hit a home run with a chick on a date, man, take her to some fondue place, man. Chicks love that. And I was like, all right, dude. I never did.
Oh, so you don't know.
And I think fondue is more prevalent now, so it's not that big of a deal. Because back then, there was like one place in town. It was like across town. Now
you can get fondue at McDonald's.
Pretty much. What's the point?
And
so, Celia sneaks out to hang out with Wesley, and
there's some Romeo and Juliet stuff going on.
Yeah, and they're talking, they're flirting. Anya shows up, turns into a monster again.
Right.
And
doesn't Wesley take her to the holodeck and show her some different planets?
Yes.
Which is very sweet.
And
it's a hell of a first date. You see the whole galaxy.
Exactly. And Wesley
doesn't leave you anywhere to go for a second date.
That's true. Like, you're blowing your load in the first date, kid. Come on.
Amateur mistake, Wesley.
Amateur rookie mistake. Look, man, the first date, you maybe just watch a movie or something.
Right.
Make her dinner.
Take it easy.
Start off small but sweet. You know.
Small but meaningful gestures.
Exactly.
Talk to Data about
Make her
this.
a mixtape on a cassette.
Yeah.
How's she gonna listen to it? Doesn't matter. At least you made it.
It's analog.
Yeah.
Like Gypsy Danger.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's not digital.
No. It's not just bits floating in the ether.
We're 21st century digital boys.
Yep, that's us.
So we so Wesley freaks out, like, oh my god, there's a monster. Anya's like, Wesley, get out of here. Celia, don't do this. And then she turns into a monster. And it turns out they're both monsters. They're both monsters. And so they need to leave. And Celia's like, look, I'm my own person. I can do this. Like, I appreciate you raising me and taking care of me. You did a great job. But I don't need this anymore. I need to do this. And Anya's like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to go.
You passed the final test.
Yeah, I'm going to go chill out on this planet. I'm going to do my own thing.
This is where I'm from.
And there's this great moment with Worf where she says, like, perhaps we'll fight again someday. And he's like, you're a worthy opponent.
It's nice.
And he's like, oh, bro, perhaps we'll meet again someday, like, in battle on the same side. And Worf's like, it would be an honor.
Yep.
Like, that's all Worf, like, it's really cool. Like, all Worf cares about is fucking fighting and dying on his feet, man. That's something I can get behind, homie.
It's a real Carpe Diem philosophy.
And so, and Celia tries to smooth things over with Wesley, and he's like, it's almost like it's, and she's like, look, bud, and he's like, what, are you even a human? What? It's kind of like
he gets weirded out.
It's kind of like if like his first, like he finds out his first girlfriend, like he
not a virgin.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, oh, would you go bang that dude again? And she's
You're
like,
a whore.
You whore, get off me, I hate you. And she's like, well, it sucks that this is how you want to say goodbye, you fucking child. So she starts to leave, and he shows up, and he's like, no, I'm sorry. I love you. And she's like, I love you too.
I guess.
And Jordy's like, oh.
Whatever. Beam her out into space.
But he brings her, like, some more chocolate mousse to taste. And then she's like, but I want you to leave because I can't beam down looking like a human. I have to beam down my natural state.
Right.
And Wesley's like, no, it's cool. And so she leaves.
He's like, let me see.
Let me find out.
And she becomes a being of pure light. Actually, and there's this great moment where Wesley's like...
I thought that was just her being down.
Was it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I thought she actually was like a weird white
tentacly
thing for a second. I don't know. That's how I took it.
Oh.
But I could be completely wrong about that. What does Wikipedia have to say?
Doesn't say anything, just her natural form.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately.
Because he talks about it's like she's made of light when he's in 10 forward.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
And he's like, I'll never feel this way again. And we're not... Whoopi's like, you're right, you won't. And he's like, what the fuck, man? You're
supposed to say that everything's going to be better. And she's like, no, you won't. That's
all loves are different.
Yeah. And it's his first love.
Yep. Never mind didn't he have a romance? No, he just was flirting with the girl at the entrance exam. Yeah. But really good episode.
She thinks I'm cute, dude.
Give me a high five, harmonica bong. I have a name.
My name's Mordog. Whatever.
Give me a hit of that.
What is you smoking? Contagion's our next episode. I watched this episode 2 times, and each time I was kind of like, I'm not exactly sure what's happening.
Yeah, me neither.
There's a lot of cool stuff. It doesn't really come together. Like the Romulans show up, and they might be fighting the Enterprise, and the Enterprise might be fighting them. And
right, and there are these
Geordi gets knocked out, and May has a great one-liner.
Yeah, Tato, what just happened?
From what I can ascertain, the Yamato, the USS Yamato,
is in some trubs.
The Enterprise, their sister ship is in trubs. They go to find it, and it's been blown up. Boom.
Boom.
So they try to figure out what's going on. It's in the neutral zone. So they try to figure out what's going on. A Romulan warbird shows up, decloaks right in front of the Enterprise, and they're like, what do you... and Picard's like, what are you doing in the neutral zone? And the Romulan commander's like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing in the neutral zone? And so they accuse the Romulans of destroying the Yamato. They deny it. Then some crazy stuff starts happening. It turns out that there's this, like, ancient...
the old gods left the base.
The old gods left a Trojan horse virus
on the planet. This planet right inside the neutral zone, and
it's basically hacked both ships, and is
playing willy nilly. If you if you ever owned a Windows system, you know what's up, and you liked free porn.
And it would get the Romulans like missiles to like get ready for launch. Yeah. And
drop the Enterprise a shield,
and then stop, and stuff like that.
And the communications coming in and out. Picard leads the away team. It's himself, Data, and Worf.
Yeah.
And Riker's like, how many fucking times do we have to have this conversation? Picard's like, apparently one more time, because I studied the old gods in spaceship college. And,
like, it should be me doing this.
I'm going down. See ya. Ship is yours.
And so they find these like portals into like
other worlds
and places that they can just like walk through. Like, oh, the Roman Colosseum, let's go in there.
Yeah, let's check it out.
And so Picard thinks that maybe that these old gods didn't die out. They just went out of the
right, that they outfoxed their enemies.
Very much like the original series episode where
yes, where they were all in different periods of history. Yeah, that's right. It has a very strong vibe of that, except there's no librarian keeping things.
Exactly. Like the virus acts as the librarian, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So Data, they decide to get him infected. Like, he gets infected.
That's right.
Because, like,
trying to figure it out. Like,
even though 2 episodes prior we established that he's as human as anyone else, he's still a machine.
He's still disposable, right?
So he shuts down, like, automatically because, like, just that's
what he
a
does.
failsafe.
Right.
And he restarts, and so after he restarts, they find that the virus is gone. So essentially, like, you just have to turn it off. You have to reboot. You have to turn it off, turn it back on again. Unplug it, wait 30 seconds, plug it back in.
Right, basic tech support.
And
basic SBC global customer service.
Exactly, which is what both the Enterprise and the Romulan ships do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they both like fly off like while like keeping an eye on each other the whole time.
Pretty much, it's there's some interesting character stuff. Picard's got a great bit when he gets back on the ship. He actually beams back, right? He doesn't take the portal that Worf and Data do. But he's like, gives Riker some shit. He's like, what's been going on here? Same as usual? Boring, right? All the excitement's always on the planet. I see why you enjoy it so much. I'm off to the holodeck to jerk off. See you later. Bye.
And Riker's like, what?
Or the Friends guitar riff.
Whatever.
They're both great.
They're both great.
That's why we love them.
The Royale is the last episode that we'll be discussing.
This was a really fun one.
This was great. They show up. They find a piece of a space shuttle
from NASA.
Dated
from the early 21st century, right? The forensics.
Yes, because there are 52 stars on the U.S. flag, apparently at some point either the U.S. flag is abolished or a 53rd star is added.
Right.
Because he says it's from...
That's how they can tell.
Yeah, it's from early
21st century.
Like 2130
or...
like 2130 to like 2185 or something like that. There's like a 50-year period where having a 52-star flag would make sense.
Right. But the rubble, or not the rubble,
the rebel flag.
No,
there's also a space shuttle with the stars and bars, which is weird.
Which is very strange.
That episode?
Seriously, they can do Code of Honor, but they can't do Dixie Planet.
Dixie Planet.
No, but the basically it's way further out than the NASA technology should have been able to take the ship. Is what I was getting at.
And so they have to figure out like how it got so far. They beam down to this small area.
Right. Wesley finds a structure on the planet,
and there's like a revolving door, like one of those like old timey like hotel doors.
Right. You still see them if you've ever been to a BJ's pizza place and brewery. They still have them.
And so
little kids love to run around in them.
Absolutely, yes. And so there's like this. It's a hotel casino called the Royale. And
seems like something out of a gangster. Like, what was the name of the character that Picard was playing as in that?
I don't remember.
The Hard Goodbye or the Longest Goodbye or whatever.
And
but it
Dixon.
seems very Dixon Hill. Yeah, it feels like a Dixon Hill kind of.
And so it looks like it's a casino, and there the archetypes there. Like there's like the Texas oil man, and
the blonde bimbo.
Yeah, and so they can't talk to the Enterprise at this point, and so they're trying to figure out like what's going on. Meanwhile, the Enterprise is trying to contact them and figure out like why they can't beam up.
And Troy's
because that Picard brings up, he says like that's protocol, like, and Riker doesn't want to break protocol to beam back as soon as you lose contact with your ship.
Right. He should be at the beam back coordinates.
So something's up.
And Troy's acting as a walkie-talkie for his emotions.
Yes. And for a while, they're just kind of like enjoying themselves. Data's playing blackjack and, of course, making friends. The aforementioned Texas oil man puts his cowboy hat on him.
Right. Data makes friends wherever he goes.
And he's learning how to play 21. And he's got like 16, maybe. He's got like 4 cards. And he's like at 16 or something like that. And he says, "Hit me," and he's like, "Well, you know, they're getting too many cards there. How do you know?" He's like basically like playing the odds. He's like,
he basically gives him the statistics,
and he like hit me, and he gets 21, and he's like, "You're not one of them card counting types, are you?" And he's like, "I don't." And he
What's the point?
Yeah, he thinks about it. He was like, "What would be the point of counting cards?"
Right.
And the guy's like, "Well, I guess you're right."
Data's playing a lot of cards this week.
Yes, but he's really enjoying himself. And then finally
Riker goes to the front desk when they first get there, and Bernard from Lost is running the place.
Yes. And he acts as if he knows something, like you get the impression that he knows what's up.
Right.
But he isn't spilling the beans.
Right. He's like, "This is Earth. What do you call it?"
And so Riker's like, finally, all right, we've had enough fun. Let's get out of here.
Right.
They try to go back out the door, but they just keep coming back in.
Right.
It's ever revolving, never evolving.
Very nicely
done. Thank you. So they try to phaser their way out of it, but the phasers don't affect the structure at all.
Nope.
They go upstairs. They find a skeleton, a male skeleton that's been dead. It's been dead for 10 years, 238 years. And
they figure out it died in its sleep, and Worf says, "That sounds horrible."
Yeah, exactly. And they figure out that it's Colonel Ritchie from the
ship that they found the piece of.
And there's a book. There's a journal, and he's like, "I can't leave. I hope whoever reads this, figures out a way to get out of here."
Right.
And so they also find a book called like the Hotel Royale.
Right.
And they're reading it, and they're like, "Oh, that's like this character is just like that dude downstairs, there,
right? And
this character is just like that woman downstairs." And they realize that they're living the novel,
right?
And that much is confirmed when like a bellboy is shot by a mobster, and it happens just like in the movie.
Lobby, right?
It happens in the lobby, and it happened in the book as well,
right? And
so they have to figure out. They realize that they need to play by the rules of the novel, like the plot.
Holodeck survivors, all of them.
Yeah, exactly. This is Holodeck Survival 101. The holodeck ever goes crazy.
You play by its rules, you defeat it.
And
Holodeck's been behaving so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And except for the time that Moriarty took over.
Oh, that's true. Was that this season?
Yeah.
I forget.
I think so.
It was one of the first episodes. Yeah. You're right.
And so, and they revealed it, and Geordi's able to get minor communication with them. It's really staticky, but they can still communicate. And Riker tells them this, and they so Data reads it. He's like, summarize, and he's like, kind of like, what do you call that? Just like
flips the pages.
Flips the pages really quickly as he reads it.
He thumbs through, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. He thumbs through the book and reads it and pulls out the plot. And
Will Hunting style.
There is these characters that are brought up.
The foreign investors.
Quote, foreign investors that are destined to buy out the hotel.
Right.
And I guess they don't play like a big role. I think they're just alluded to.
Right, they're alluded to as like a passage of time sort of thing. Like eventually the hotel was bought out.
Yeah.
So and so died in Vietnam. Like the end of Stand By Me.
Like so and so married so and so, and they run the pharmacy. I see them every once in a while and say hi. So they Riker's like, we need to assume those characters. We need to be the foreign investors. And Data, gets to the craps table and starts using, math and statistics.
But figures out that the dice are loaded.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then he squeezes them to even out the weight.
Yeah.
And suddenly they start winning.
Yeah. And everyone's loving it. And Riker explains the plan to Picard, and Picard says, you need to
play it to the T.
Play it to the T. You have to be, like, the foreign investor is supposed to be insanely generous. And so he's like, he starts like handing money out. He's like, give this to the bellboy outside to the valet. Here's some money for you.
It's one of the most fun solutions they've ever come up with.
And on the last roll that Data has to do, he's like, what are you going to bet? He's like, 700,000. He's like, no, bet it all. And so he's like, okay. And so he gets that bimbo before to blow on the dice.
Right.
And he holds it in the palm of his hand, and then he just kind of like turns his arm and just like flings the dice. Like Brett Spider, like, I mean...
He's a lot of fun.
I'm sure when they explain the role to him, they're like, you're going to play like an emotionless robot who... Like,
wants to be a real
boy. And I'm sure he was like, I don't know if they explain, like, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff.
Right, there's a lot of humor.
Either way,
you're pretty much the comic relief.
Either way, all the stuff that they give him, he is gold at. Like, he nails it. He knocks it out of the park every time.
I wonder how much of that is, like, they planned for the character and how much of it was watching him on set and sort of writing to his strengths.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. True. I mean, but yeah, he's kind of become the soul of the show, really.
And so... They
break the bank.
Yeah,
and Riker's and Bernard's like, hey man,
you broke the bank. Like, there's not enough money. He's like, well, then we'll take $12.5 million and put it towards the purchase of the hotel
and spread the rest around.
And then Bernard's like, you are the foreign investors, and Riker's like, God damn right I am. And then they go out through the door, and they're able to leave, and they get beamed up, and that's it.
Now, what's interesting, I don't think we talked about it, but is that the reason that the thing exists is that the shuttle was intercepted by these very advanced aliens who didn't quite understand humans.
They're like, what is this?
Right, and they're trying to protect that astronaut. So
Lenny and rabbits.
Exactly.
Lenny and bunnies.
So they built him the casino, thinking because he had that book with him.
Well, they in trying to get them.
It's like the Gangster Planet.
They all died.
Oh, that's
except for except for Colonel Richie.
And so they built him this place, and they're like, "Oh, this is what your life is like."
Yeah, thinking like, oh, this is
how your people live.
This is more so like a document than
a work of fiction. We don't understand the difference between fiction and nonfiction. Yeah. We're very advanced.
So advanced for you.
But my question, it's sort of interesting just thinking about like what you pick up at the airport before you leave could be what you end up living for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like what would you pick if you had to have a book?
Porn.
Yeah, Letters to Penthouse.
Obviously.
Different room for each story.
I was like, oh, like you just have sex with a ton of women. That's what your life is like. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually. If I had to pick a book, like an actual...
Yeah, an actual book.
I don't know. Stepping on the Cracks by Mary Downinghan? No.
I'm sure Mary Beth would pick the Harry Potter books. I might pick those. One of those.
Those are good, dark and hairy, though.
Well, maybe one of the earlier ones where, you get to go to the feast and it's a lot of fun and everything ends up turning out okay as long as you're...
The third one?
Third one's where it starts to turn, but it's still light enough.
That's when Edward dies, right?
No, that's the fourth one.
Oh, then the third one.
Yeah. Yeah, the third one is
the fourth one's awesome because that's the Triwizard Tournament. That's so dope.
Maybe you've got them all on your Kindle. And they're like, this is clearly one document broken up into 7 pieces.
Each incrementally larger than the last.
Right. At least you'd never get bored because that's thousands of pages you'd have to live through instead of the same 300 or 400.
Would you be Harry or would you be like Neville? Like kind of on the fringes.
That way you can kind of participate, but you're not having to be the active protagonist in the story.
Like, oh god, I gotta go.
I gotta fight the basilisk again. Wonder if I'll defeat it this time. Just to hang out there, take the exams, maybe snog. Although at a certain point, like, do you look like a teenager or do you continue to age? And they're like, and do they realize you've aged, or like, are they like, "Ew, you're skeezy"?
Oh, like you were. Like,
I am not going on a date with you.
You were like 50 years old, bro.
Ball.
Like, how are you still a student at Hogwarts?
I got left back a lot. So you want to go to the ball or what?
No, or what?
I'm opting for the or what.
Next week we will we'll discuss Times Square. Next week is a 5-episode week.
Yes.
Because we only have 2 more weeks left in season 2. So next week will be Times Squared, The Icarus Factor, Pen Pals, Q Who,
I was wondering when we were going to...
The Return of Q, and Samaritan Snare.
Right on. So, listeners, feel free to write it and tell us what book you'd like to be stuck inside of for the rest of your natural-born life.
Yeah, put it in the comments section for this episode when we post it to Facebook, or you can send us an email.
Right, if you're Rob.
Star Trek into Dorkness@gmail.com. We're still sticking with the old school email address because I don't feel like creating a new one.
Yeah, it's too much work.
But thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones, tell your coworkers.
Yeah, we've got 41 likes. We got our 41st like this week. We'd love to get to 45, so tell 4 people.
We'd like to get to 50.
Ooh.
Yeah.
High roller. You're the Ford investor, aren't you?
I'm generous.
Spread it around.
Spread it around. Spread the love.
Get us to 50 and we'll spread it around.
Yeah, if you get us to 50, we'll spread that around, but good. LLAP.
KO.
This has been an Into Dorkness production.
Go talk to her. You're not going to be any good till you yank one out or something.